Today we gonna recap one of the saddest movie I have ever seen. I hope you enjoy it. Richard returns to his hometown of Matlock, Derbyshire, in the Peak District, England, after serving in the British Army. He and his younger, mentally impaired brother, Anthony, camp at an abandoned farm near the town. Flashbacks reveal Anthony's abuse by a group of drug dealers in the town. Richard vows to take revenge. Richard meets Herbie, one of the abusers, who does not recognize him at first. Later, Herbie and friends Saz and Tuff are in a flat taking drugs. He tells them about the confrontation, and says he thinks the man might be Anthony's brother. When Herbie leaves, he finds a man in a military gas mask outside the front door. Saz and Tuff run outside, but the man is nowhere to be seen. When they go back into their flat, they discover that Richard has ransacked it and stolen the drugs. The next day, Herbie, Saz and Tuff call on Sonny, the leader of the gang. When he answers the door, he has had his face painted but does not realize. Fellow gang members Big Al and Gypsy John have also had their hair and clothes painted during the night. They all suspect one another of playing games until Herbie tells them that Richard is back in town. The men encounter Richard while driving in their Citroën 2CV. He tells Sonny he is not scared of any of them, and invites them to come to the farm where he is staying. That evening, while the gang are playing cards, Sonny decides that they should shoot Richard. When Gypsy John goes to the toilet, Richard, having sneaked into the house, kills him with an axe, using the dead man's blood to smear the words "one down" on the wall. The next morning, the gang go to the farm where Richard is staying with Anthony. Sending in Big Al to draw Richard out, Sonny prepares to shoot him with a rifle in their only round. However, he misses and kills Al. With no rounds remaining in the rifle, they retreat back to town as Richard smiles. The surviving members stop at a local petrol station where the car breaks down and Tuff runs off, fearing Richard's revenge. Later at Sonny's house, they arm themselves. Richard is hiding in the kitchen pantry, and laces their kettle with the stolen drugs. Once the three men are completely intoxicated, Richard reappears to kill them one by one. He shoots Sonny in the head, and kills Saz with an upward palm strike. He then shows Herbie a suitcase which has Tuff's corpse inside. Richard then tells him he is a good man and will let him live if he tells him where to find the final gang member, who left the gang years before. Herbie tells him without hesitation, and Richard hugs him, before stabbing him with a knife that Herbie had intended to use on him. The next day, Richard arrives in a nearby town where the final gang member, Mark, lives with his wife and two sons. He talks with the children's mother and asks her to let her husband know that he is Richard, Anthony's brother. When Mark returns home, she explains the conversation to her husband. He tells her how the gang abused Anthony. The abuse culminated with them pretending to hang him at a local ruined castle whilst he was high on acid. The gang then ran off, and Anthony hanged himself. It then becomes clear that Richard has been alone the whole time and talking to a vision of his dead brother. The next morning, Richard takes Mark hostage. He takes him to where Anthony hanged himself and demands he tell him his part in what happened. Mark explains how his fault was in not stopping the abuse. Richard confesses to killing the other men, admits that he considered his brother a spastic and an embarrassment, and tells Mark that he now feels like a monster. He gives the knife to Mark and demands that he kill him lest he continue his monstrous ways. Mark eventually stabs and kills Richard before stumbling away with blood on his hands.
Please subscribe for more movie